Hi, welcome to Reddit Tea Time. My 38 male 15-year-old son has been in therapy for the past few months after his best friend died. It was very hard for him, and while I've always been there to help him, my wife and I felt that having a therapist would be best. He seems to be making a lot of progress, so I know it's working. Unfortunately, my brother-in-law is a men shouldn't express emotions kind of guy. I've always thought that was BS, so I made sure my wife and I were on the same page about not letting that happen. Last night, there was a family gathering. My son had just had his therapy session, so we picked him up and drove there. While we were there, my son was telling me about something they talked about, and my brother-in-law must have overheard, because he started on a tangent about boys not needing therapy and calling him a girl. I probably wouldn't have reacted as much if my son hadn't been there, but my son was visibly hurt by what he was saying. I was mad at him and told him to F off and that right now my son is more of a man than he is. I would have liked to say more, but I didn't want to upset my son further. I admit that I might have gone a little too far, but I was defending my son. But I don't think someone who shames someone else for being healthy while also being sexist is being a man. My brother-in-law just glared at me and stormed out of the house. My wife told me that we were leaving, so I got my son and we left. My son didn't say much the rest of the night, but my wife sure did. She was mad at me for doing that and saying I disrespected her brother. I tried to explain I was just defending my son from him, but she wouldn't take it and is ignoring me. I'm still mad over this. My son was shamed for expressing his emotions, and then everyone gets mad at me for defending him. But all of their reactions are making me second-guess myself and wondering if I'm the bonehead. Am I the bonehead? Now for some comments. Not the bonehead. Your brother-in-law disrespected your child, who is going through something incredibly difficult at a young age. You did your job as a parent by standing up to him. Not the bonehead. We call out toxicity wherever we see it, especially when it involves children. Even more when it's family, and even more when it's our child. Your wife needs to pull herself together quickly and get some therapy to figure out why she's willing to toss her child under the bus to appease a bully. Not the bonehead. Good dad, many dad points. I can't say this enough. Good dad. You need to have a chat with your wife, though, and get her head straight. You are a hero. Your brother-in-law is the bonehead. Sadly, your wife values her brother more than she values her son. I, 21 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 26 male, for 3 years now, and we have a son who is 13 months old. Not too long ago, my son said his first word, and I decided that now might be a good time for me to teach him Polish in addition to English. For the past days, I have been speaking Polish to him. I know he won't learn it straight away, but in a few years, he might be fluent. However, when my boyfriend saw me saying Polish words to him, he said that I should stop. I asked him why, and he said it would be unfair if we could communicate with each other in a language he couldn't understand. He even said Polish wasn't a useful language to learn, like Spanish or French. I acknowledge this, but I have continued to do it even though my boyfriend has asked me to stop. I feel guilty, but I do want to share my first language with my child. I also feel hurt that he doesn't care about my language. Am I the bonehead? Now for some comments. Not the bonehead. He better hurry up and learn Polish. Not the bonehead. Your boyfriend is, though. There's no downside for a kid to learn a new language, especially when they learn it from birth. Not the bonehead. Besides the advantage of being bilingual, research has shown that learning new languages becomes easier the more languages you know. Plus, it would be the perfect opportunity to learn at least some basic Polish for your boyfriend. Aren't there any Polish in-laws he needs to impress with a basic dominion of the language? And finally, it sounds like you're proud of your heritage. You have a right to be so and should pass it on to your child. Not the bonehead. Your boyfriend doesn't have the right to dictate what language you speak to your child. Further, it is good for children to learn multiple languages and cultures. Your boyfriend is being a controlling bonehead. My daughter has been living with me for the past couple of months, and while she's finally working, only part-time, I had to nearly force her to find a job. My grandson is 2 years old and my daughter is 20. His father is in and out of his life, so I primarily babysit my grandson while my daughter works, runs errands, etc. I love my grandson and my daughter, but it's not my due responsibility to care for him 24/7, and I'm not required to do so. I raised my kids and I did my best, so I should not have another weight on my shoulders or raising another child because she had him so young. Yesterday, my daughter worked from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and I worked overnight from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., and this is my regular full-time shift. I told my daughter that I would not be able to watch him because I was tired. Nevertheless, she put him on my bed and said she didn't have a sitter. I'd had enough of being forced to watch him against my wishes in my own home, so once she left, I called her, texted her but no response, and she ignored my calls. At that point, I grabbed my things, grabbed my grandson, and dropped him off at the police station and told them that my grandson was abandoned in my home and that I couldn't reach my daughter and that I was unable to care for him. They said okay, got my contact information, and was unable to reach her, at which point I went home. A few hours later, my daughter called me crying, telling me that the police turned him over to CPS and is refusing to give him back. They're saying she neglected him and accusing her of child abandonment, which she did. My daughter thinks I'm the bonehead, and it's unfortunate she no longer has access to her son. But this is simply not my responsibility. Am I the bonehead? Now for some comments. I mean, are you for real? I get that your daughter was totally out of line, but didn't you feel scared as his grandma dumping him at the police station and now he's been taken by CPS? Your daughter is the bonehead for doing that, but that was really heartless and cold of you as his grandma. Now that CPS is involved, they will continue to be involved, so I hope there's more to this. I'm going with everyone sucks here because I can't fathom someone doing this to their grandchild. He had to be scared to death. You're the bonehead because you're mad at your daughter and taking it out on your 2-year-old grandson. No matter how irresponsible your daughter is, you risked your grandson being emotionally and potentially physically abused by putting him in the system. Children do not do better in foster care. First, you're the bonehead for using the police to teach your daughter a lesson. They have better things to do. Second, you're the bonehead for leaving a 2-year-old with a bunch of strangers with no thought of how frightening that might be for the child. Third, you're the bonehead for not considering the possibility that your grandchild could have been taken away by Child Protective Services for something like this, and that you would have been responsible for long-term messing up the child's relationship. Fourth, you're the bonehead for not communicating with your daughter better. Honestly, if you had been cleared and not let her live with you in the first place, or had been firm from the outset, it might have forced her to find living arrangements where her baby didn't suddenly end up at the police described as abandoned. Fifth, you're the bonehead for lying to the police about the child being abandoned. I could go on and on. Homer Simpson said it best. "Aw, I have 3 kids and no money. Why can't I have no kids and 3 money? I, 29 female, am married and plan on having kids in the next decade. But I come from a family that is in a weird cult that thinks children are the end-all and be-all. I'm the only girl in 7 siblings and I have 20 nieces and nephews. I hated growing up like this and I promised myself I wouldn't have kids until I was secure in my career and marriage. My 5 oldest brothers are all tradesmen and make good livings to support their growing families. My youngest brother, however, had a chance to get out. He went ROTC and everything was going great. Until he came home one Christmas and my family started crapping on him for not starting a family. Well, now he has 3 kids and no money. His wife stays home and watches the kids. My parents approached me about helping him out since I have more money than I need. I don't though. I'm saving up for my family. My parents only see that my husband and I are living in a big house and drive new cars and take awesome vacations. They cannot compute that the reason I can do this is because I don't have kids yet. I told them that I would contribute an equal amount as they and my other brothers did. I wouldn't match it. I would just put in as much as the person who put in the least. They said that I was being petty and parsimonious. I said that I thought my offer was fair, but that I would withdraw it if they didn't agree. They're now mad at me and several of my brothers called to give me hell for hoarding my blessings. I may have been rude when I said that I had always been taught that children were the greatest blessings, so they were all better off than I was. Now for some comments. Not the bonehead. You aren't obligated to help your family. You can if you want, but if they try to guilt you into it, it's a form of abuse. You're being responsible and they're being irresponsible. Why should you have to cover for their irresponsibility? Also, if you help them, it never ends. The burden will simply grow over time and they'll come to be reliant on it. When you later try to pull back the support, they'll act like it's abuse to not help them. Don't start. Not the bonehead. Having kids for anyone else's wants but your own is an incredibly bonehead move. Forcing others or pressuring them into a lifelong commitment and to raise a child isn't just being a bonehead but evil. You could have $100 billion and you don't have to have kids until you think you're ready, and until you want to. You never have to have kids if you don't want to, no matter the money. You owe nothing to anyone, and having kids isn't a needed part of life, for anyone. Not the bonehead. Tell them you tithe 10% to Planned Parenthood and you don't have any left over. What do you think? Please let me know in the comments below. If you like these stories, please consider subscribing. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next Reddit story. In the meantime, please take care of yourself. Bye for now.